So I should be live in the Facebook group. So the Art of Video Marketing Facebook group, LinkedIn on my LinkedIn profile, and on the Video Marketing Pros YouTube channel. So great. Let's work this out and let's see how we go. So welcome. And first, the future of video marketing, adapting to AI in the changing landscape. So do I know what the future looks like? Absolutely not. It's moving so incredibly fast at the moment. Things are changing. We have gone through some seismic changes over the last few years, and things are only starting to get quicker. And the biggest changes are yet to come. So we have some fun time ahead of us. It's going to be interesting, and we're going to have fun. So let's dive in. So firstly, an intro and a welcome. If you don't know me, I'm Ron Carmichael, and thank you, and welcome to the basically I'm live streaming this to my Facebook group, The Art of Video Marketing. And if you'd like to ask me questions and stuff like that, I encourage you to come over and join the Art of Video Marketing Facebook group. I will be live streaming this, as I say, in a couple of places. One is LinkedIn and the other is my Video Marketing Pros, which is my agency, on our YouTube channel. So welcome. I will say a little bit more about me in a second. But first, some house quickly to kick it off. This is my first live stream I've done in a very long. Not the first, but this is relaunching basically the Video Marketing Clinic and the weekly live stream show. So I look forward to sharing what we've been up to, what we're doing in video marketing. So if you're into video marketing or you want to use it, then this is the place to be. There's so much going on, and I want to share some of what we've been up to, how we're using it, and particularly for experts, coaches, consultants, course creators, business owners, and marketing executives. And I know that's a big area to try and cover. So in terms of knowledge space, but I am going to try and I'm going to push it up to slightly towards the higher level of this in terms of people who are already using video in some shape or form, understand it. But even if they can't, I've got ways and means of helping you get over that. And AI is really helping that in a long way. But what I really want you to do is to start to understand what's coming down the line, the impact it's likely to have, and some of that we don't know yet. Already this year, we've seen huge changes. So, and for me to know the future, even with a crystal ball, it's going to be difficult, but it's exciting, definitely. And rather than run away from it, I'd encourage you to embrace it. And I'm going to explain a little bit more why I'm qualified to say what I do in a number of different areas. Okay, so welcome here. Please do subscribe to or request to join the Facebook group, The Art of Video Marketing, because there I'm going to be sharing not only these live streams on a weekly basis, every Thursday at this time I plan on going live, but also what I will do in there is I'm going to share some of the other stuff we're doing, what we've developed, and other training and other ideas. So, but also I want to build this as a community of like-minded people who can support and help each other, particularly now. There's so much to do. And I've kind of realized, I live video marketing on video day in, day out, every day. And I'd seen a level of confusion as I go to launch coaching programs to a different target market. So the coaches, consultants, and experts, to take them from unseen to stand up and be heard. I've realized that not only was a whole level of confusion around video marketing and the potential, because there's so many different things you can do, but obviously then AI comes along and just adds another whole level of complexity. So let's dive into that as we go. The plan is for me is to try and keep these to 30 minutes. I know that's going to be difficult. In fact, I'm going to take my watch off so I can see. This is probably going to be a little bit difficult. I've got so much to cover and so much to talk about. And if you see me overlooking here, I'm going to keep my notes here. I normally have them on the screen, but I'm going to keep them here to try and keep me on track so I don't start going too deeply into any one particular area. Much as I'd love to, I can talk about this stuff at length. There's so much stuff involved, but I understand that may not be beneficial to you listening. So let's try and paint the big picture today. And then as we go forward, I can then hone in on some of the specific areas, what we're doing, how we're doing it, and also start to address the issues that I'm seeing that people are asking. Okay, so if that's good with you, then I'll kick off. So, and as I say, it'll be a weekly show. Keep it to 30 minutes. And the idea is actually the actual live streams will be shorter in the future so that I'll have time for Q&As. But I understand that this is all quite new and people haven't had time to join the group, to ask me questions. And if you want questions answered, as I say, make sure you're in the group, and then I can answer them there, or I'm going to answer them live on air, and some of them I can actually put up on the screen, and take it from there. Okay. So who am I? Well, as I said, I'm Ron Carmichael. I've been using video in some shape or form now for 15 years. I started out as an SEO guy. In this space, I started out as an SEO guy, and then I started to identify the opportunity in video and the huge potential. And I saw some specific things around it, how we're doing it, what we were doing. I made the transition to video full time in 2017. And that's what me and my agency, Video Marketing Pros, have been doing full time. And we've been going in there, working with clients to implement an entire video marketing strategy into their business. And we do basically the whole soup to nuts, and then give them something that works, that's performing in a very short time frame. Now, what's interesting is obviously AI has fundamentally changed my outlook on what we're capable to do as an agency. But my role, I feel, is to help more people, impact more people, and business owners and experts get seen and heard and use video. As powerful as it is, if you don't use it right, then it's wasting time. So I want you to use it in the right way to help grow your business, your impact, authority, and brand. Okay. So as I said, I've been using video for quite a long time, and I've never seen so much change as I have in these last few years, which I'm going to talk about specifically today. But and I talked about the perfect storm, so we'll dive into that in a second. But anyway, so I've been using it for quite a while. It is a very effective medium, but I totally understand that there's so much going on around video. My sort of takeaways on that are simple. Most of the time, it's down to strategy. Most people haven't done the groundwork properly. They do not have a clear strategy in place, so they do not know what they're trying to do. They don't know the optimum platforms, and so they don't have a clear strategy, and then they don't have the workflows and processes around it. Once you've got those things nailed, the rest of the strategy becomes quite clear. Okay, again, I'm not going to dive into that today. That's in my other trainings, and it's other stuff I will cover. There are specific ways you want to do it and steps you need to take to really harness the power of this properly. Okay, but we will cover on a couple of areas today. Let me just take a quick, come up for air quickly, have a quick coffee. Excuse me. So why am I qualified to talk about this? Well, particularly with everything that's coming down the line. Well, I've told you I've been doing video and video marketing for 15 years now, or using video in some shape or form, and for the last 6 years, pretty much full time. So that's kind of my bag, and I've been really, really deep in the trenches. But really, my story goes back way before that. I was involved in the financial markets for many years. I've seen many trends, and in fact, I was involved in financial markets and trading technology for 25 years. And I came from a very analytical background. I tend to spot patterns and movements and stuff like that. I've always been quite at the foredge of innovation, disruptive technologies. Obviously, I've seen the likes of the mobile phone, the internet come along in our time and take root. And then I was part of the whole electronic trading revolution, which we rode successfully, and other stuff. So I'm always looking for disruptive technologies. I love technology if it's an enhancer and helps our businesses grow. I tend, as I said, I spot patterns and waves and stuff like that, and I tend to embrace them when I see something, an opportunity. Now, I've been fortunate to have done quite a lot in my time, and done some great stuff. Again, that's a different story. That's for another time. But I never expected to see something quite as big or quite as disruptive as this. So when AI, and obviously I've been using it in my back, I also had a software business writing trading algorithms for 15 years ago or something. So algorithms and all that, again, are not alien to me. This whole thing is kind of another step. I wish we'd had some of these tools when I was, doing what I was doing, and even just for an analysis. But anyway, we're moving on fast. So there's a lot going on. This technology is brilliant, and I'm excited by it because, again, as I said, I've never seen anything that potentially has such a big impact across such a wide area on everything we do. And it's moving at an incredible pace. And as I said, I spent much of this year going very deep working with the right people to really understand how to harness it, how we use it. And I'm starting to see certain patterns and things coming out of it. And again, it's not your easy to use tool, although it's just got easier with the GPTs and AI assistants, but it's not this just, press it and it does everything for you. So you need to know how to use it strategically. Again, we'll cover that. Let's step back. Let's have a quick reset and work out what we need to cover off today to set the groundwork. Because I've been bandying around all these terms like, seismic shift, perfect storm. So let's cover off exactly that. What is the perfect storm? I used that term in my social media, the perfect storm, what happens next? And I think that's a good question because we literally almost have had a perfect storm in many ways, although it may not feel like it. So I want to cover off a number of areas. In fact, I'm going to cover off 4 areas in this little presentation. I'm going to move quite quick in terms of the training. I'm going to move quickly through it, and I'm going to cover and give you some sort of little pointers and everything else into it, because I appreciate we've already been going 11 minutes and I want to get into the meat of this. So, number 1, impact of the pandemic. Number 2, the power of short form videos. Number 3, addressing shrinking attention spans. It's a biggie. Number 4, the one we want to talk about, the rise of AI. Okay, so let's talk about, and again, I apologize, I'm going to look down here. I probably should have it set up higher, but I'm going to look down here just to keep me on track so we can get through this quite quickly. So the impact of the pandemic, that was huge, because it basically has fundamentally changed behavior. Now, things would have changed normally over time, but sometimes you get these outlier events, not quite a black swan. Well, it is a black swan event because it's totally unforeseen, and it just concertinas the time effect up massively. So what might have happened over 10 or 15 years suddenly gets pushed into a very, very tight time framing. And the pandemic absolutely did that, because suddenly we were all forced online. There was no question that if you needed to get on and do business, and particularly for brick and mortar businesses, but even for all of us who were doing, in offices or wherever, we were forced online. We had to adopt these technologies like Zoom and WebEx and all sorts of webinars and meetings, or Google Meet, whatever it was. We had to adopt all these technologies very quickly. So we got used to sitting on cameras with groups of people around. Okay, so that's one. So we all got forced online. No questions. That was it, to get forward. Then, because of that also concertinaed the whole video consumption effect. Video consumption went through the roof. I mean, enormously. And in fact, to the extent that video consumption has doubled. In fact, it's more than doubled since 2018. So now some of that, obviously, we were all forced online, so we were consuming everything online. So we're watching the Netflixes and all the streaming services, and we're consuming a lot of content. A lot of people were learning new skills, reskilling, doing things, just consuming content. We were looking for entertainment. We were looking for education. We were doing business. We were on calls. But it changed. And also an element of escapism. And that is going to come around again in terms of the current environment. So bear that in mind. But so we were forced online, consumption habits, and they haven't changed. That once that pattern was established, it wasn't suddenly, it looked as though it was going to fall back a bit and go say it didn't. It sort of stabilized. And again, the video consumption continues to increase. Okay. And again, some of these other forms of video have a role to play in that. So the fact is, now people are watching an average of 17 hours of video online every week. Now, I think that was taken from a HubSpot niche. What I haven't been able to validate is how much of that is streaming services, or because when they talk about online video, it sounds like it's just video content, but does that include streaming and stuff like that? But it doesn't matter. The headline figure, and basically even what's below it, is important, that we are consuming and want to consume more video content. And there's a whole lot of raft of statistics and figures out there that validate and show it. So I'm not trying to make a case for video. I don't have to do that anymore. Whereas before, a few years ago, I have to validate why people should be on video, why they need to be using it. Now it's a different story. It's unquestionably the way. The trouble is, it's how we now use it is the big issue. And then, of course, I've mentioned the growth in e-learning. We've seen this huge shift to people wanting to consume content and how they learn, what that's going to do for education, what it's going to do for a lot of other sectors. is yet to be seen, but we know it'll be huge. Okay, universities, education, all that stuff. Okay, and even as us, as we reskill, as we need to change, and now with AI as well, that's going to change how we do things. So the whole growth in e-learning, which is great if you are that expert coach, consultant, course creator. If you're in that space, obviously this is highly relevant. But as business owners, we need to adopt that, and we need to understand, and not just the nuances more widely. Okay. Moving on. Number 2, the power of short form video. This is a great one. We've seen an exponential rise in short form videos and their impact on consumer behavior. So here's another thing on top of what has already happened, again, which validates my term, the perfect storm, because we've had all this growth in short form video. I'm going to talk a bit more about the impact shortly in terms of consumer behavior and how it affects us. But it's had a dramatic impact on consumer behavior. The platforms were obviously, with TikTok, was the real instigator of that to a large degree. TikTok came in and no one took them seriously and kind of sat back. And of course, TikTok, originally it was all the dancing videos and all that sort of stuff. But of course, they had a different game plan and evolved fairly quickly. And suddenly, by the time everyone realized it, TikTok was going quickly down this route with short form video. So all the others had to play catch up in some shape or form. And then the likes of IG with their IG rules favored video in the search results and the algorithms. And videos continue. Now, obviously, space is more saturated with short form videos, but it's still very popular. And one of the ones people tend not to look at is Facebook Reels. People tend to underplay it, but there's other places to use this content that most people do not consider or don't think about. And again, my whole thing is about repurposing content. I'll leave that for now. We can go into that another. I will allude to some of it later on in our chat, but let's leave it like that. So anyway, these platforms have become hugely popular, whether it's IG Reels, TikTok, the Facebook Reels, and YouTube Shorts. And again, YouTube were also playing a catch-up game, and they reacted, and that's exactly what they did. They reacted to the TikTok challenge because TikTok was doing more than just creating short form. They were becoming the younger person's sort of search engine, as well as a tool that consumed content and search for stuff on. So suddenly, but YouTube then changed and realized that they've been around long enough. They didn't need to play the catch-up game, so they changed their strategy and started playing a far more strategic game. So I'll leave that. How you use YouTube is a slightly different animal to the others, but even so, okay. So yeah, we've had all these and everyone chasing them and creating short-form video. There's a lot of buzz around it. There's a lot of noise. Obviously, all the social media influencers and authorities are doing all sorts of stuff and telling you what to do. There's a ways and means to use this stuff. And particularly if you've got a business to run where you can't just spend all your time being on video or shooting video. So again, we have clear strategies around what we do and how we do it. We'll test a lot. You might see me, most of the stuff you don't see, but now that I'm launching my own personal brand, you might see me mess around with more stuff. So it's obviously worth watching my social media profiles because you might see me mess around with stuff more than I would have normally done on my sort of public facing or ones that people are aware of. Usually we do this in other spaces or we're doing it with clients. I'll also talk about, because a lot of people are missing some of the key elements to creating engaging short form video content, because at the end of the day, it's not just there for people to consume. We, as business owners, it needs to work for us, and it needs to work for us in different ways. Again, people tend to miss the point. There's different types of video content you need to create for different purposes. But at the end of the day, it needs to capture attention. It needs to build up, and this is why I go about this impact, authority, and brand. It needs to help us establish ourselves or our brand or our company or our business. And people want to watch this. They want to see this sort of content. But for us, it needs to drive conversion. So again, that goes on to another way how we use it. We're not just wanting people to consume it and then forget about it, unless there's different strategies about how we build brand, but we want people to take action or at least see us in a certain light. Okay, so that was 2. Let's talk about 3. Addressing the shrinking attention spans, and this is a biggie. Because again, as I said before, the short form videos have dramatically changed our consumption habits and our attention. And there's a real problem, because attention deficit is a huge problem. Attention deficit was getting worse as we were moving forward anyway. But now, with all this plethora of information, with noise coming out, and of course, we've now got another reason to get more concerned about it, because AI, from most people's perspective, has just made it push button simple to go off and do this stuff, create it. And with more and more of the video tools coming down the line at the moment, of course, that's going to get easier. And of course, you're going to see all these get rich quickly. Johnny is saying, just do this and, you can produce 10,000 videos. So there's going to be a lot of that. Okay. There's a lot of noise around it. Again, we need to think, we need to be very clear. We need to be very strategic about what we're doing and how we do it. But there is definitely an attention deficit. We are particularly, and as I say, some of us have seen enough, but there is definitely, and I see this with client teams, there's a generation coming up that've got a scrolling addiction habit. These social media platforms are very, very good. And they've got teams of people working on this stuff who know how to get us addicted to this content, so that we stick on these devices and we've got this scrolling habit. We're just scrolling. And they once you're down that rabbit hole, they tend to stick in it for quite a while. That's what the platforms want. The platforms, and again, this is worth bearing in mind, the platforms want people to stick on their platforms, and hang around and watch more content. So bear that in mind. It's a very important piece to remember. We've got a generation that have a scrolling addiction, and they're getting these dopamine hits from, again, it's done deliberately. It's triggering our fight or flight modes. Specifically with some of these noises and announcements, and we feel we have to respond, we have to do something, but it's deliberately doing these things and the design to do that. Then I want to talk about creating compelling content, and visuals is an important piece. So in fact, I'm going to handle that here. And then I want to talk about video formats and lengths. One of the key things, and again, here's a little nugget, because one of the key things I see, so here I'm talking about create compelling content and visuals, and many people would read that as this bish bash bosh, all this fast moving, fast action stuff. It doesn't have to be like that. Okay, there's certain things you want to do with your video, but it doesn't have to be these over-engineered, overproduced. And I'm deliberately doing stuff at the moment to show people and help. Whereas there's stuff we can do in terms of editing, and I normally would, in terms of how you put B-roll, how you put other stuff in. That's great. But here's what you want to remember. The core piece is, and some things, again, don't change. And this reminds me very much of my Financial Markets Day, when everyone's caught up in the technology and the latest and greatest, what's happening, we often forget the history. And I noticed that particularly in the Financial Markets days. I noticed that everyone was getting caught up on, all this, the gizmos and us, looking at all these screens, and it changed our perspective. And we kind of forgot the real hard, the nut and bolt analysis. And I kind of see the similar analogy at the moment. So one thing I would encourage you to do, because some things don't change, our behaviors change, but some of the deeper things, and some of these, are better than others. But some things, so some old school stuff remains the same. And what I'm specifically talking about is old school copywriting, because one of the skills you need to be relatively good at, and AI can help you with this, or in fact, you need to be very good, is writing what I call in my trainings hooks, headlines, and heroes. Hooks, very important. If you were to put videos up, whether it's long form or short form, particularly short form, you want to have a strong hook. So if you go back to your old school copywriters, what did they do? They had a very powerful hook. So headline, the lead was strong. That was that first bit to get people to stop the scroll, to get them to engage because it piques their interest. Then they'll read it. So that's the lead. Those stuff have never been more important. Or maybe it was always important then, and we kind of just, we're arrogant enough to think that we know better, or it's changed. But those hooks. So what I would encourage you is to make sure that you're writing very good hooks. And I don't mean sensationalist. There's obviously a whole raft of stuff where it's, it's not clickbait stuff. It's got to be powerful, but it's got to also tie into the rest of what you're saying, because you want to get people to, it's got to resonate. And again, I go on about all that, really understanding your client avatar, the messaging, what's going on in their heads is so, so important. And that's what the old school copywriters are very good. And the modern day great copywriters are very, very good at getting inside the head of their ideal target audience. What is it that they need? What are they looking for? What information? And they know how to talk to that. And again, it's never been more important. So one of the big things we do always is everything we start with starts with that research analysis and understanding the ideal client avatar or avatars. And now, again, we've now got AI assistants that help us do all this. What used to take me a long period of time of research analysis, ripping things to pieces, has become so much easier. But do that research, then think about how you stress, how those headlines work, the lead into anything you write, whether it's a long form copy, whether it's a video, what you're using your short form. Again, that headline's got to scroll. Then you want to capture their attention and hold it. Back to my hooks, headlines, and heroes. So that's the hook and headline. The heroes is the storytelling. So there's a couple of elements. There's different things we want to use. We obviously want to keep them engaged and move them through it. And another thing we underestimate, and messaging is so, so important. And that's kind of what most people miss out on is effective messaging, but also the storytelling element. And again, I've understood for the last few years how important messaging is. I focused again. I'm more increasing on the storytelling element as well, because I think that's getting important. We never get away from that. It's so deep in what we, in our so deeply entrained in us to tell stories and relate. So that's important. Okay. And again, if you look at the old school copywriters, they were very good at that. So, all right. So that's it. So remember to put this stuff in. Video formats, again, I kind of split them. I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail about the different sorts of video formats, but really in length, because obviously different platforms and there's nuances to what you want to do with different platforms. But simply speaking, we have long form video. So like a live stream like this, so longer YouTube video, a podcast, there's a video podcast. And if you're doing podcasting, I would highly encourage you to turn it into a video podcast because of the mileage and distance you're going to get out of that content. I will talk about that more. One of our skills has always been how we can take content, repurpose it, and syndicate it. That now has become so much easier. What was a very time-consuming process, and how you do it and what you do with it is really, really important. So, but basically the video formats are long form. So I'm talking, anything between, 5+ minutes. And I know there's going to be gaps here, but there's a longer form, and it might be shorter than that. Then that's sort of 1 to 3 minutes. But here's the sweet spots: the sort of longer form content, which is like your podcast, your live streams, your YouTube videos, which is going on long form YouTube videos, your channel. And then there's that intermediate 1 to 3 minute stuff, which is doing quite well, but obviously it doesn't work for all platforms because some won't let you do. And then the sweet spot for the short form in my book is sub 60 seconds, obviously, because that's the most useful that you can use across more platforms than any other. And I'm not talking about, like 59.9 seconds. I'm talking about sub 60 seconds. It doesn't have to be. It's somewhere in that train, enough for you to say what you've got to say or get your message across, depending what it is. But that short form video, and obviously there's two ways to use that really in my book. One is you create content specific, so it's made for short form. It's deliberately done like that. And then there's repurposing long form. I favor, for most of my clients with what we do, well, it's a combination of both, but start with repurpose long form content into short form snippets. And now, even when we structure long form content, we bear that in mind, so we can structure it in a way that it makes it easier to take short form audiograms, sound bites, and stuff like that out of it. Okay. So start there in terms of efficiency, and then backfill with specific pieces of short form content that you need. Once your processes and you know what's working and you've got it right, then you can put in more short form. But again, it's easy to create, but it's still like everything. It takes us. It's a question of where is my time best invested in terms of the nature of the content I'm going to create, and how much time do I have? What can I do? But AI dramatically helps with that whole process. And let's go on to that, because that's the big one. So number 4, the rise of AI in video marketing. Oh my, this is huge. And I've written here the transformative potential of AI in video marketing. Well, we're seeing a massive, massive impact. And AI is really, really changing everything from ideation. And again, I'm going to talk a little bit more about this in a second. So from creating content ideas, doing all that research, so what do we do? And then the whole processes and everything else around it, and then so much more. Okay. And I'm going to talk about AI video creation in a second. So we've got this whole transformation in terms of your ability to create effective video content, and then all the other content you need off the back of it, whether it be video, long form. So if you've got a longer form video and you create the blog post of it, then from that you create the short form of it. That's a very, very effective. And it's just made what used to take us hours and lots of toing and froing and editing has just been crushed down into a remarkably short period of time. And with the AI assistants and GPTs, which are a significant game changer, again, I don't say that lightly, because a lot of the stuff that we had to build out, what we call stacked workflows, where we're giving the AI tools context, and that's really, really important. You need to understand how the AI tools work, and you need to give them quite a lot of information. So you're seasoning the AI with information, you're giving it context, so you're training it to do specific things that you want it to do. If you do that and do the work, then that makes everything, the output, so much more valuable, and the content so much more specific. Again, that's a whole area I can dive into and will dive into to an extent in the group, but our ability to use it, so it's worth understanding it. That said, now with the AI assistants and GPTs, they make our job. I can go and I've created these AI assistants, and with very little data, you can input that information and get out everything you need, because I've programmed it to go through the steps I would normally have gone through, and then to execute it the way I would do it. So we give it all the prompts and everything else it needs. We give it all the context. We give it all the information. You don't need to worry about that so much. Would I suggest you do that all the time? I still think at this point in time, it's huge. It's massively beneficial for you in terms of the time saving. I would still understand the nuances of AI, because I think with the way this is changing, you really need to understand how these things work and how to leverage the best of it. But for getting up to speed and getting things done quickly, then yes, go and find people who've built some of these AI or can help you build them, that will help you in your business streamline these workflows and processes. It starts with the tedious work, taking out this stuff that's repetitive and tedious, reformatting, particularly if you're writing content anyway. If you are a writer or you create your own content, then get it to do all the work, set the context, train it, and then it can do all the work for you and go off and create all the content you need, because it's unique. It's based on what you've already written and done. Okay, so that's a good investment of your time. So do it that way. Understand, but these GPTs are going to be huge. And as I said, we're building around, which we'll give to the clients. We're building around these AI assistants, and that's exactly what they're, high-powered assistants. And now we've skilled them. We've given what they need to know. So we have these different, and it's not one, you have a number of them to sit there and do specific functions. And they can do this, whether it's the research and analysis, whether it's to create scripts and write content, whether it's to repurpose. So you create these to do all the avatar research, etc. They are very, very good at this, to run analytics, to do all sorts of other stuff. So that is where the big opportunity is at the moment. And you need to start getting your head around it. As I said, go and find the people who understand this, talk to them, or work out what you need in your business and how you need to do it, because that frees you up to focus on the things you need to be doing. And then with mine, I talk to my clients about being the change maker. So rather than being buried under all this stuff, and of course the weight of marketing, because you've got so many different functions to do, rather than being buried, is to empower you to become the change maker. So you sit above it. You're like the conductor. Suddenly, rather than just being in the band, you're out there conducting the show, and you've got these things doing the work for you. You're being very strategic, you're being effective, and then that empowers you to step up way above this. And again, I talk about my milestones, and I talk about the change maker system. We have a 9-step system we go through. So I talk a lot about that, and in fact, we've simplified it to make it easier. But then if you can get these tools and things to work for you, it empowers you to go and do the good thinking, okay, the ideation, the creativity, the smart stuff. And I think that's where that's where these tools really make a difference, okay? Then I'm going to talk about, obviously, where this is going and how we can use it. because AI is being built into everything. And, Microsoft and Google, they're putting billions into this. So everyone and a lot of the tools we use are building integration or AI integration into them, whether it's Canva for your graphics or your video editing, your video editing tools. They're building in, and there's some really, really good stuff now for video editors, and particularly someone like me. I mean, I've got video editors who are on the professional platforms. So that's far too sophisticated for me. But now a guy like me can do this stuff very quickly and easily, at least do a rough cut and then go, here, this is what I want you to do. And again, if you need recommendations, happy to help. Got some specific ones I love. But AI is coming in terms of that, removing a lot of the tedious work processes of removing filler words, even for looking for content that you can repurpose quickly. Whether I would rely on one tool to do that, I'm not so sure. I tend to use a few and then look, it gives me suggestions and then I go and take it from there. But even so, it's the video editing side is changing its face, copywriting changing its face. Then we've got, in terms of targeting, what the amount of data it can go through. So in terms of targeting, personalization, AI is going to really make a difference in terms of the whole analytics, data, so not just workflows, but all this other stuff in terms of looking at where the opportunities, analyzing it. Even, I've already said about analyzing competitors. It's great. But for your own data, if you've got reams of data that you need to get, look through and you're looking at patterns. For instance, here's a good one. So if you do a survey or you get people to comment, for instance, in a Facebook post about all the results, you can just take all that content. You can literally just copy it all into something like ChatGPT, upload it and get it to sort it and then rank it by what's the most common problem or hurdle, obstacle, common problem, whatever it is that we're seeing. So ways like that you can use this, and it's great. I mean, the amount of time it cuts down and frees people up to do other more valuable tasks. And not saying this isn't valuable, but we want to be doing the high end, high value. And in Dan Martell's words, buy back your time. We are buying back our time. We're getting rid of low productivity stuff we have to do, and we're moving ourselves up the curve into the more productive, high value content and idea creation and stuff like that, where our strategic brains are good, where our creativity is best. And that's, again, because all these other things are what stuff's going to fall by the wayside. Those are the jobs and the roles that are going to go. So, which is why I'm also banging this drum about get in front of this, understand what's going on and leverage it. Whether you're a copywriter, whatever you're doing, jump on this and learn how to use it for your benefit, because then your skill set has just gone up a lot. Okay. So let's talk about, so I've talked about those. Quick one on personalization. Again, this is a big changing thing. As business owners, people want to come at us from different channels. So suddenly, of course, we've got this channel splurge, and people want to. So we might always want to be orchestrated and say, just drive them through this sales funnel, drive them down this. It's not how it works. People come in at all different points. They come in ways you hadn't anticipated. And I see that all the time. But there's ways we can do this again, and people want responses quickly. So this is where, like, these chatbots are very powerful, which kind of means that platforms like Facebook and Instagram are great for that. And as the others do it properly, where you can get people to respond to a word or do certain things, and you can let the chatbot, and don't pretend it's not you. Don't pretend it's you. Let them know. And again, I'm going to talk about that in a second, but let them know it's you. But now, because they can be intelligent, you can handle that stuff off quickly. They can take your content, your knowledge bases and stuff like that. And these chatbots can respond, whether it's a sales inquiry, put it in down some different route, whatever it is. Again, that's kind of where we're going to go. This is going to get so much smarter in terms of how we can look after people, respond, but not in a generic way, but in a more specific way too. Okay. Let's talk about AI video, because again, this is the space that's really moving now very rapidly. And even a few short months ago, I was saying to people, do not just use AI to create videos, because it was just not good. It was like the graphics when they came out. So whether you're using DALL-E or Midjourney or any of those, particularly when it came to people, if they were trying to do that, they were pretty inferior. They usually got the hands and faces all messed up. Now that's moved on. AI videos is now the latest one that's suddenly rocketing. And literally, I'm talking about as we speak. And money's going in rapidly to the AI video, and it's dramatically changing what where this goes and what the potential. So AI video is huge. It's a big rabbit hole. If you go down that one, it's a very big rabbit hole. So, will we see AI generated, so would we see Avatar, which I'm not sure how long it took them to create and film it. That's going to be created on computers. So Pixar and these people are going to move it, and they're going to have, instead of huge teams of people creating and graphic, AI, they're going to have AI doing a lot of this, and just the guys instructing it and driving it and keeping it right. But it'll cut down production time. It should do enormously. I know an industry like that moves slowly, but even so, these are going to be huge. But the AI videos are now more relevant to us. So rather than digress, more relevant to us is now, whereas before it wasn't good enough, but we're now at a stage where this could be literally, it's not, because I'm all over the place, but it could be an AI, it could be Ron Bot giving you this presentation, and all I've ever done is typed it, and it's the avatar, it's the Ron Bot. No, I wouldn't recommend it for something as long as this, obviously, and I wouldn't pretend it's not you, or don't pretend it is you. That's the way I meant. So, but these bots are very powerful, because now, and of course, I'm going to come to the ethical and other issues, but there's now the potential for me not to be on camera. I would still encourage you to get on camera, but now with the likes of HeyGen, then they can do very, very good video quality versions of me, and something like 11 Labs can clone my voice in a remarkably good way. Really, really well. You might want to tweak it, you might want to do it up, but they can do a pretty good job. So all I could do is type a document and then get the video created. Again, I could use AI as long as it was in my tone of voice and everything. I would probably still write it. I would. You've got to edit these things. You've got to make them you. But there's ways you can do it. But it could be Ron Bot here, answering, responding, doing whatever, and giving a presentation. So we're at that stage, now where it's starting to get good. And AI video is an area that is moving very rapidly. And this, Silicon Valley's pumping. There's a lot of money going into it very quickly. Okay, so how that evolves is going to be seen. That's the one that's going to be the unknown. But the whole video creation, what we do and how we do it, is changing. And even for someone like me who's on top of this stuff and got people I work with, this is moving so fast. AI is anyway, and these areas within it. So that's why I'm here to try to help, and I want to share more. I want to share specifically not all the information. The idea is, my thing is, I like being at the coal face. I like working out what works and then go, right, if I know it works, here's how to use it. Here's how it works best. And that's kind of where my role is. So going forward is helping people use this in the right way to grow their businesses. And I use it myself. And then obviously I'm going to close out on this there is a huge ethical issue, particularly around cloning voices and stuff like that. And I've already seen, you can see some avatars that look like famous actors, and there is going to be an issue around this. And there's going to be a huge other problem to come with this whole thing. The fact is, as I say, the genie is out of the bottle. They're not going to put it back in. It's out. It's how we handle it. It's what we do with it. What I wouldn't recommend is you pretend it's not you. You don't hide behind anything. If it's a Ron Bot, then I will say it's a Ron Bot, or I might play with you and just say, and then say, actually, by the way, did you realize? That's something else. I'm going to do that. So, but yeah, there is a whole ethical, the whole plagiarization, copying, because of what this stuff can do. It can literally rip stuff off and repurpose it. So where that goes, I'm not sure. So we're going to have to see. Obviously, there was a big conflab. Was it in Davos? I think it was a big conflab where they were putting their heads together to start thinking about how we manage, and the speed with which this stuff gets rolled out. Obviously, they're trying to throttle it back a bit. But even since then, we've seen some huge moves. And then even within the AI industry itself, there's been some topsy-turvy, as I'm sure you're aware of. So, okay, look, I've gone long enough. I trust this helps. The important thing is, again, be clear on strategy, learn how to use these tools. Come join me in the Facebook group, because that way we can engage with the conversation. I can get more people involved. So I'm just going to kick this off. I'm going to see where people are at, how I can help. I'm obviously doing stuff in the coaching program side. I've got some new stuff launching. I've got a video marketing mastery program that's going out, which is designed for business owners and marketing executives who really want to stay at the cutting edge of this space, and then obviously agencies. So I've got a fair amount going on, but I like what I see. I like what these tools can do if we can use them properly. And I've tapped into, as I used to do in my financial markets day, and particularly when I did hedge funds, you find the best people in the world. I used to find the best hedge funds and traders. Now I kind of feel the same, which is find people who know what I need to know to get me the answers so we can get from A to Z in the most efficient and effective way. And part of that is my role as well. So that's why I feel quite passionate about it. I feel quite empowered in terms of what we can do. And that's why I wanted to get this live stream up and running and going again so I can help. But I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. I'd love to hear where you need help. Please come over to the Facebook group, The Art of Video Marketing. Request to join. There's some simple questions. And let's, as a community, support and help each other. And I kind of want to build this. If there's stuff I can do for you personally, then reach out to me. Because one thing's for certain is change ain't going to stop. It's here now, and it's going to go fast, and it isn't going to relent anytime soon. So I wish you well, and I trust I can help you at some point, and I look forward to seeing you in the group. All right. Thanks very much for your time, and thank you. Bye-bye.